Hello lovelies. Now I've just been sat thinking about what to talk about in my April happies, and some of my decks that I used in April were kind of on the more unusual end of the spectrum, and it just struck me that I had got a certain type of deck out last month, and I wanted to share those decks because I think they're kind of curious decks. They are decks that if you were going to get a cabinet of curiosities, then these decks would go in there. They're unusual, they're slightly different. I find them, you know, kind of on the odd end of the tarot deck spectrum, and it made me think about what other decks I've got in my collection that are similar to that, and I decided to share them today. I think I am going to start a new tag. I think I'm going to share my top 10 curious decks, and I'm going to start a tag called, let's think, should we call it the top 10 curiosity decks? So the decks that you own that would live in a cabinet of curiosities because they are different, shall we say. Now, I'm going to start with two decks that I used in April. Now, firstly, I used this one, Correa, the Magician's deck. This is by Correa Publishing. It's a UK based deck. Now, I've changed the way I do my week ahead spread, because I do a week ahead spread every week. And I've started using this deck for the week ahead spread. Now, here are the amazing backs. This is a deck that is very, very different. You have different sections to the deck. You can see the edges are different. So green cards, which is the biggest section in the deck, are for the physical realm. You've got these blue cards, which I think are for the inner realm. I am just going to check. Yeah, the blue cards are for the inner realm, so for other powers and context. The green cards are for the physical realm, so physical structures and natural features. You also have, I think it's 4 of these red cards. Now, these are the divine realm, so the realm that we can't go into as humans. And then you have some black cards, like this one here. Now, these are for the realm of death and the underworld. Now, some cards have 2 colours on the borders, and that means that they belong to both realms. Now, I'm also working through the Correa magical course as well. There's 3 huge books that you can buy. Now, I haven't bought the big book because I wanted to check that I was getting something out of the course first. So I bought a smaller course book of just the first section of the first level, and I'm working through that, and I am loving it. So it's not only a sort of magic deck that connects all the different realms that you would travel through during magic, but there's also like a study element if you want to do the course as well. Now, all of the course materials, I'm pretty certain, are also completely free online if you want to access them and download them. I think they are. To be honest, I'm so impressed with the course so far. I am considering buying the first level in a big book format with everything in there. It's just fascinating, to be honest. At the moment, I am studying sort of energies and feeling different energies and working out how they affect me personally. I'm working through simple meditation techniques, breathing techniques. Yeah, it's just really great. So this really is a very unusual deck. This card here shows the reason why I was first attracted to it. I loved the artwork with all the feathers, so I was attracted to it on kind of a shallow level to start with, but I've since really began to connect with it. You have the Morrigan in there, washer at the ford, which is wonderful too. Yeah, so I love it. The book that you buy as well that goes with the deck is this one. So this book is your guidebook for the deck, and it goes through all the different cards. It tells you about the different sections. At the back you have different spreads that you can do. But this book isn't the magic book, so this is one that goes with the deck. I will put some pictures in here because I think the book's upstairs at the moment of the actual book that I do the magic course from. But this has been one that in the last 2 weeks I've really enjoyed using and getting to know more. But I paired it with this, the Literary Witches Oracle, which is a 70 card deck. And this was one of my very first oracles. Look, it opens up in a box like this. It's the first time I ever experienced like a sort of linen-y card stock. And this uses famous writers through the ages and kind of links it to the magic that their writing brought. So you've got writer cards and you've also got object cards. Now, I haven't found the connection yet between the authors and these cards. I have in some, but not in all. But they just stand alone, to be honest, to be worked with on their own. But I have loved putting these two decks together. So the guidebook that this deck comes with is just like a little booklet like this. This is the only book where you get a description of the spell object cards, and you literally just get 3 keywords with each spell object card. Then you get a small amount for the author cards as well. If you wanted a little bit more about the writing of the author cards, then you can get this big book. Now this big book doesn't talk about the object cards at all. What it does is it gives you a little bit more about the actual author. So this is the writing that's in the little book, but this bit here is all extra. And I found that for me, using the deck, I've needed both. I've needed this big book and this book. Plus, it's also inspiring me to go and read some of these this work from these different female authors, and it's just a fascinating journey, and it reads like a dream. It doesn't spoon feed you the meanings. You do need to kind of access a little bit of intuition, a little bit of creative license when you're reading with this deck and this one. But the two card decks together I have found to be just really gorgeous. So definitely 2 curious decks. Definitely not your normal run-of-the-mill decks to work with, but really magical. I think it's got to be one of my top 5, possibly top 3 oracle decks of all time. Look at that, I love that together. Very curious. It leads you down, both of them lead you down different paths. This one into further reading, this one definitely into further study. Just incredible. Now this braid card, oh my gosh, I had a magical reading with this card. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah, and this card, this has been a card that has greeted me on repeat, and there's almost like a Sheila card in there as well. So brilliant decks. I love both of them very dearly. Definitely would belong in a cabinet of curiosities. So that's the Magician's deck and the Literary Witches Oracle. The Literary Witches Oracle has these amazing backs. I think the backs as well kind of resonate with each other. So those are the first 2 decks of my 10, like coming in no, these are in no particular order, but the third deck I want to share is this one, The Star That Never Walks Around by Stella Bennett. Now this I bought very early on in my tarot practice. Now I do think this is out of print now, so it was very, very cheap. It was under £10 to buy initially, and I bought it and I never used it, and I was literally at the point of giving this deck away. In fact, I did give it away once. It came back to me to give away for a second time, and then in the process of giving it about to give it away for the second time, I decided to just give it a go because I'd never worked with it, and I fell hook, line and sinker in love with it. So I then thought, well, I'll just rebuy it for my friend who I was going to give it to, and it was then that I realised it was out of print and I couldn't afford to get it. You can see it's a Native American deck. Now Stella Bennett, her grandmother was Native American and introduced her to the tarot and metaphysical things. You've got different suits in this deck. You've got turtles that represent the earth signs, so Virgo, Capricorn and Taurus. You've got butterflies that represent the air signs, so Aquarius, Gemini and Libra. The thunderbirds are the fire signs. There's a thunderbird, which are Aries, Leo and Sagittarius. And then you have frogs for the water signs, so Pisces, Cancer and Scorpio. So it does rely on astrology. You've got colours as well coming into play with the writing. So you've got the red for the fire energies. All of the majors are written with blue writing. With the turtles, you've got green writing for the earth energies, blue writing for the water energies, and then you've got purple for the air energies. And it's this very simple style of drawing. It kind of looks like pencil drawing, but the minute I started actually working with it, I just fell in love with it. In particular, the quirkiness of some of these frog cards. Honestly, some of these cards are some of the most strange and unusual and just fabulous cards I've ever seen. And that world card, how amazing is that? This card stalked me for a while as well, which I love. I mean, the page of Thunderbirds, will you just look at that drawing? It's just incredible. And the 7 of Frogs, look at it. And the page of Frogs, look at that drawing. So definitely drawings that belong in a cabinet of curiosities. This is a curious, magical, fascinating, beautiful deck to work with. I for a while said thought I was going to rehome this. Like I said, I almost gave it away twice because it didn't really feel like I had access to this culture, or perhaps I shouldn't be working with these images. But honestly, it's so endearing once you do start working with it, and the energy in it is wonderful, and it just makes me smile so much. So definitely one for the cabinet of curiosities, The Star That Never Walks Around Tarot. These are the backs and I love it. So deck number 3, what are we going to go to for deck number 4? I think I'm going to go with this tarot deck in here, which is another favourite but curious deck, and it is this one with these backs. Of course, it's the Mystical Dream Tarot. I mean, immediately with the colour scheme, you can see we're in a realm of something a little bit different. And then as you begin to read with it, it does go its own way a little bit at times. The guidebook is definitely one that is useful to read with this deck. It is one where, you know, read the guidebook and sit with the cards a little bit. The whole vibe of this deck is kind of curious. It's one that I'm planning to work with more this year. Initial readings with it, I love it. I love the way it looks. I love the colours. I love the just the curious art style of it. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea for sure. I mean, look at this Lovers card. That belongs in a cabinet of curiosities, doesn't it? Like the Eight of Pentacles. You can see it's unexpected imagery. Look, the Four of Swords. Look at that. It's so different. And the Three of Swords. Look. So very, very different in lots and lots of different ways. They've got different cards here as well. You've got different names on them. If I show you this page in the guidebook, you can see those different names. So the Fool becomes the Innocent, the Magician is the Master of Secrets, the High Priestess is the Priestess of Dreams, the Empress is the Dream Carrier, the Emperor is the Dream Protector, the Chariot becomes the Moon Chariot, Justice is Matt, the Hermit is the Wisdom Teacher, the Wheel of Fortune is the Ouroboros, which is the one we've just seen. So that's the Wheel of Fortune. Strength is Sophia, which I love. Death is the Wise Fox. The Devil is the Sorcerer. The Tower becomes the Divine Tower. The World is Serpentier Soul. So again, right from the get-go, you can see that we're in the realm of something slightly more curious than the norm. So you've got Lords as well in the court cards. There's the Fool card, the Innocence, all very, very, very different. The Priestess of Dreams, there's the High Priestess. You've got Ladies in the court cards as well. There's Sophia for strength. So one that is squarely fitting for access into the tarot decks that are curious and immediate entry into the curiosity cabinet. So yeah, so that's the Mystical Dream Tarot. At number 5, I'm going to put in these two decks together. Now this was my very first tarot deck, or a replacement for it. That's another story which I've told before. That inspired me to also get this deck. Just the boxes on these are curious. You've got a book that's joined and the cards actually in here. So we've got the Harmony Angel cards here. You've got the same thing going on in this. You've got a full colour book, and then you've got the cards in a little tuck box in here. So these are the Heart and Soul Angel cards. In this one you've got different coloured backs like this. Now these decks all come with different sections of the cards, and they're fascinating, they're curious, which is why I've included them in this tag. So in these, again, the backs are different depending on what section of the deck you are accessing. And the cards themselves are fascinating. They are linked with archangel energy. Also astrology really features in these decks. It's kind of like an astrology class meets a 70s disco vibe that's going on with these, and I love them. I shouldn't love them. I feel like I shouldn't love them so much, but I do. I mean, some of the imagery is so strange, but I love them, and they're great to use as well. The books are very good to kind of explain how you would go about using them. You know, it doesn't just leave you in the dark. I find them really useful. So you've got lots of animal imagery in this one. In fact, you've got animal imagery in both of them, to be honest. There are elements of sacred geometry as well in there, which I find fascinating. But definitely easy access to a cabinet of curiosity, these two decks. Of course, they're old decks, they're definitely out of print, but they do come up a lot. I mean, both of these decks, I don't think I even paid £10 for both of them together. They were going for like £3, £4, £5 each, that sort of price. They have crept up in price recently, but I think if you are patient and sit and wait and look on eBay, they do come up. I see them all the time, and it's still not like silly expensive money, because of course it's not everybody's cup of tea. But yeah, I mean, look at this. This is the most bizarre image. Look at that. But I love them. I love them because they're bizarre, they're curious, they're oddball decks that belong firmly in the Curiosity cabinet. So that's the Heart and Soul Angel cards and the Harmony Angel cards. So these two go together for my place number 5. I'm going to count those as one deck. In a similar vein, because I loved these decks so much where the book is joined to the box, I just got curious and I started searching for some more, and I found this one. Now this is coming in place number 6. This is Julia Parker's Dream Cards. Again, you can see it's a full colour book, actually joined to this kind of box with the cards in the centre. Now I have actually used these cards and I found them really interesting to use. And I do have a video. I've got a video of the Harmony Angel cards and a video of this deck, which I'll link at the end. But what you've got in this deck, you've got a way of interpreting your dreams. It kind of breaks dreams down into themes. So you've got, if you dream about rooms or buildings. Now for each theme there's 2 different cards. There's if it's a light and positive dream, or if it was like an anxiety producing dream. In order to kind of answer whether you think it was a positive or a negative dream, you have these 2 core cards that you start with. So you answer these questions. Was your dream positive? Was your dream negative? Once you've deciphered whether it was positive or negative, then you think to the theme, and you either pull the positive card or you pull the negative. So you can see each card has a twin. So this is if you're dreaming about games or sport, and you answer questions on the back to try and clarify what the dream was. So trees, plants and gardens, money, credit or debt. You've got possessions, transport and vehicles. You've got landscape and travel, communications, so TV and things like that, illness or health, food and drink. Did that come into your dream? Work and workplace and creativity. So you could see that you might have more than one card come up in your dream. So clothes and nudity. Now I had a really vivid dream that involved clothes and nudity, and this deck really helped me to decipher it. So you've got weather or the past, if you're dreaming about the past, if animals are in your dream, or if other people or children are in your dream. So disasters, crowds, if you're being chased. So we've got pursuit. You can see the legs chasing. Birth or death or change. If sex is involved. If the earth is involved. If air or flying or falling is involved. If there's fire involved, or if there's water involved. So once you've worked through answering all of those questions, you're beginning to open up avenues to kind of depict what the dream might be about. But you also have some help with the explanations and the interpretations in this book as well, and it's just been really interesting to use. I don't use it all the time. I just pull it if there's a dream that's really taken my breath away and I can't work out what it might be about, or if it's a dream I just want to explore a little bit further. This deck is quite good for that. So it's a little curious oddball, Julia Parker's dream cards. It's going into the cabinet of curiosities as curiosity deck number 6. Number 7, I'm going to put 2 decks again together for number 7. Both Sheryl Yambrack Rose decks, both the old style. This has been reproduced recently in Blue Angel, and I actually ordered it and didn't like it as much without the borders, and I was lucky enough that somebody gave me a heads up in the comments section on my channel that there was one of these on eBay, and I managed to get it, so the version I wanted. So this is Art Through the Starstream Oracle and Art Through the Eyes of the Soul Oracle, both by Sheryl Yambrack Rose, who of course is linked to Glastonbury here in the UK. Now, Sheryl Yambrack Rose, if you know her decks, you will know that they kind of have a lot going on in them. The backs on both of these are gorgeous, but you have sort of angels, you have King Arthur, you have sort of the Isle of Avalon imagery, you have other cultures depicted as well. There's some Christian looking imagery in there. There's a lot of links to place as well, which I love, to Genius Loci, and there's a lot going on, and I think it's because there's so much going on. Oh, there's aliens and Starstream energy as well, and I think because there's so much always going on in her decks, because it looks like it shouldn't work, but when you start working with it, somehow it does. Somehow it does. That I think they definitely, any of Sheryl Yambrack Rose's work, I think, deserves a shelf of its own in a cabinet of curiosities. I love both of these decks. I haven't worked with this one as much as this one, only because this has been not as long in my collection. I mean, you can see you've got elephants with sort of spacecraft, and then a woman that looks like she belongs with like the Knights Templar or something. You can see what I mean just by looking at them. But I love them. I love how bizarre they are. I love how quirky they are. I love sort of the portal into this strange magic that they open up. I mean, you've got a portal with a UFO flying through it, and then the Glastonbury tour behind. So definitely 2 decks that belong in the cabinet of curiosities. I love them. I love her work. I love her decks. I want them all. I'm not ashamed to say it. Yeah, so Sheryl Yambrack Rose comes in at number 7. Coming in at number 8 is this beauty, Jolie's Legrande, Circus and Sideshow Tarot. And if you have a thing about clowns, possibly look away now and come back later, because these are the backs. Now, I do love this deck, although it has some cards in here that really are a little bit freaky, I have to admit. But it's a beautiful reader. I love it. I mean, look at the death card. Like I say, if you don't like clowns, this isn't the deck for you. Or it might be exactly the deck for you, but you use it in spooky season. Who knows? Because it does kind of have a slightly overbearing, ominous feel to it. I mean, look at that Hermit card. It's all based in a circus. It depicts like the workers of a circus. So the wands are actually the tent pegs that build the tent and the big top. The coins are self-explanatory. You've got sad elephants throughout, which is really sad, but it just adds to an element of when you're reading. And it is just a very curious deck. I do think that circus imagery and, you know, the circus freaks and that sort of imagery of old is fascinating and curious before you've even stepped through the door. It's curious. I mean, paying money to see the freak show is literally a cabinet of curiosities in human form, isn't it? And it's one I don't see that often being used. I can probably tell why, because again, it's not everybody's cup of tea. The cups are these juggling cups, and the swords, of course, are the swords. But yeah, look at it. It is amazing. And like I say, the elephants feature as well. Without doubt, the creepiest card is this one, the Six of Cups. What the hell is going on there? But like I say, there is this kind of ominous feel all the way through, like Two of Swords. Hello. So if you can cope with scary circus imagery, clowns and sad animals depicted, then this might be a deck for you. If you can't, it's going to be a deck to pass on. But it definitely, without doubt, belongs in the cabinet of curiosities. Two more to go. Let's pop the clown backs away. Okay, this next one is an oracle that I got secondhand online because it's only ordered, I think you order it from France, and I don't know, the last time I looked they weren't delivering to the UK with this, and I really wanted it. I'd seen it on somebody else's channel who doesn't make videos anymore, and I just fell in love with it. It's a huge deck. I think it's got 80-90 cards in it, and it's made by artists in France, full of kind of like sigil type energy and keywords, and I love it. I don't have a book for it. I don't even know whether it comes with a guidebook, but yeah, I really love it. This is the Bral Telege oracle. Without fail, it always gives me the image and the keyword that I need in a reading. I used it in my house spirit spread, so if you want to see this in action, I will link that video down below. But you can see it's kind of abstract art with sigils built in, keywords that are really interesting. You can use it intuitively as well. I love it. You could pull the sigils out and use them in magic. You could build up sentences with the keywords. I mean, look, you can see how many cards, that's card 110. So you can see there's a lot of cards in this deck. like 101. I'm not sure how many are in here. Let's see if we can beat 110. But anyway, however many cards in there, it's a big deck, which gives lots of scope for working with it. And I love it. I think it's curious. I think it's unusual. If you like abstract art or colour or pattern or work with any of those things, it's fantastic. Yeah, so this is the Bral Telege Oracle. Absolutely fantastic. I love it, and it definitely belongs in my curiosity cabinet as deck number 9. And finally, a deck that is relatively new. I got it at the end of last year before my no buy kicked in. I haven't actually used it yet. It's another one of these where the book is joined to the box and the cards live in here. I've got my collector's gene has kind of kicked in, so whenever I see a setup like this, my curiosity is immediately grabbed. This deck was only a few pounds second hand, and I bought it completely for the reason that it was odd. I just looked at it and thought, what on earth is that? So I just ordered it and bought it. It was dirt cheap. The Wisdom Oracle by Ivana Kalinkova, and it is very curious. These are the backs with a wishing well and an old man on in circles, and these are the cards. I don't think I've ever seen such bizarre imagery, really. Like, you've got an astronaut, you've got an old man, you've got a green horned fairy, you've got somebody in front of a temple with a Jack Russell, another clown. There's always a clown nearby if you're in a curiosity cabinet. An angel reading, a child. Yeah, so you can see it's very odd. You've got an executioner next to a stone woman, the sun on top of a pyramid, and a scholar. So what on earth is this deck all about? I can't really tell you at the minute because I haven't actually worked with it, but oh boy, I mean, look at these cards. And to be honest, even if it doesn't work, I'm still keeping it because I love it, because it's so odd. I mean, hello, look. I shouldn't love it so much. I feel like this should be a guilty pleasure because it's so odd. Now the guidebook kind of gives you archetypes. So you've got the alchemist. Oh, you've got the woodcutter. Sorry, not an executioner. Oh, a woodcutter. He doesn't look like he's about to be cutting down trees. Why would you be masked and cutting down trees? And in the book you've got a key phrase which you don't get on the card. So it says, I hack away the wilderness, the dead wood of unproductive dreams, the chains drop from my feet, I walk. And you've got the words of Jung as well that link. You've got a reverse meaning, so this was the analyst, that was the mandala. Let the labyrinth wind its way, guide me through pathways that were once locked and concealed from me, for they hold the key to the future. And in the words of Jung it says, if a mandala may be described as a symbol of the self seen in cross-section, then the tree would represent a profile view of it, the self depicted as a process of growth. So there's a lot in there, look at that. So this is the child within. The moth must fly to the moon. My wings have grown beyond the cradle of the chrysalis. And the words of Jung says, the small boy is still around and possesses a creative life which I lack, but how can I make my way back to it? So there's different clues into these cards that are really different. Oh, look at that. Who wouldn't want a book with a spread that looks like that? This might just completely be me that thinks this is fantastic, but I do, and it's definitely a worthy contender for position number 10 in the Curiosity cabinet. The Wisdom Oracle book and card pack by Ivana Kalinkova. So that's it, guys. These are my 10 most curious decks, my top 10. Okay, I did cheat a little bit. I did put a few in as multiples. So I hope you enjoyed that, just seeing something just a little bit different. Some slightly more unusual decks with frog princes in, and all sorts going on, that link to magic courses as well, or can lead you into books of amazing reading study. So there you go, my 10 most curious decks. I'd love to see what you deem as decks that you own that could belong in a curiosity cabinet. What are your top 10 curious decks? Play along, I just really want to see. And thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.